and call the meeting, the January 17th, 2022 meeting to order. Will the librarian call roll?
Sweeney. Myers. Brayman.
Here.
Miller. Furstenau.
Here. We have an agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, Cheryl. And could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any objections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. We also have minutes from the October 19th, 2021 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the October 19th, 2021 minutes?
I approve.
Could I have a second?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Thank you.
The October 19th, 2021 meeting.
Okay, Cheryl seconds. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We have no scheduled comments and presentations, so we'll go right to new business. First item is selection of board chair and vice chair.
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate you again. If you're willing, you do such a wonderful job. I would like to nominate you for chair.
Thank you. Do we have any additional nominations for the position of chair? Okay. Could I have a second for the nomination?
Like to
Okay. All right. Are there any objections to selecting Jane Furstenau as the chair for 2022? Hearing none, I will serve as the 2022 Library Board Chair for an additional year. May I have a nomination for the position of Vice Chair?
I would like to nominate Cheryl Miller for vice chair.
Could I have a second to Cheryl's nomination?
I second.
Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair? Okay. Are there any objections to selecting Cheryl Miller as Vice Chair for 2022? Hearing none, Cheryl is the 2022 Library Board Vice Chair. Second item, recommend approval of updated materials selection and access policy. This is in your packet. Could I have a second? Okay. Report from the librarian?
Yes, so it was high time that we update this. It was last updated in 2013, and the Alaska State Library this year has made this a requirement that we update this policy before we receive grant funds for the Public Library Assistance Grant, which we receive every year, or have so far. But it was also time before I even knew that we needed to update it. We were working on it. So the main changes are in that first paragraph. You see we updated it to reflect our actual ordering procedures. Prior to this, it basically just said the library director will do all of the selection and ordering. The way we actually do it is that I delegate selection, and then I do review every single list, and then I work with my librarians to decide what we're going to order, and then I do order them. So that is why that has changed. And also, I looked at some other policies, and I really liked some of the words that were in them. One of the things they said is that we consider interlibrary loan requests and questions from the public for possible purchase suggestions, which we already do, but I like putting that in there. So if a patron were to read this, they know that we're considering everything that they recommend, even if they don't write it down on paper. And then this next section under selection, I made it a numbered list rather than a paragraph. This is more to make it more clear. I like numbered lists. Who doesn't? And so I think it's more clear if you go down the line. And I did add a few things. Again, I was looking at other policies and just trying to make the language more modern and more in line with what we actually are doing. And if you turn to page 4, I expanded the section about maintenance, or actually, rather, I added a section on maintenance. Didn't change too much, but I did make it clear that we do have a patron comment on library materials form available. Prior to this, it was not mentioned in the policy. We had it, and we knew that we had it, but we didn't have it in the policy. So now it's right there, so it's easier for people to find. And I also updated our section on intellectual freedom. Actually, most of these were already in there in some form, but I moved things around to make it make more sense. The other thing I would like to do is add an additional document to this policy, which if you turn to page, let's see, 6 of 20 it looks like. Nope, sorry, keep going. We'll get there. Sorry about this. There we go, 11 of 20. This document is Libraries and American Value. And this is something that it's been recommended both by the American Library Association as well as the Alaska State Library that we add to this specific policy. And it further clarifies the Library Bill of Rights, and it has a bulleted list, so it's very concise and very clear. So those are the updates to that policy. I'll take any questions.
Yes, Myers? Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Okay, please.
I can go.
I'm toggling my mic here.
Okay, thank you. I had a question when the changing of ultimate responsibility. It was previously the assistant librarian. Will that job description also need to be updated?
Thank you for the question. It will not, because she will still be doing that, but we also have another professional librarian who helps out with our youth services materials. So, and those are included in both of their job descriptions. But
Thank
it's
you.
good to check.
The section under maintenance, I was curious as to materials regularly removed, space, the cost of replacement, and the appearance of the collection are factors. How is the appearance of your collection?
So in a couple ways. For one, if they're like very damaged materials, faded, sometimes we won't remove them. Sometimes we will just fix them. But if we can't and they're not popular anymore, then they'd be removed. The other thing would be if the shelves are getting crowded and there's no more space. Of course, we're not going to remove anything that's still circulating. We would find a place for them, but that's more what that has to do with, is overall appearance. We know that if items don't look nice, sometimes people won't check them out. Or if they're in a location where people can't find them, they also won't check them out.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments? Should have asked that. Okay. Okay. Any other board comments?
I do have a
Go ahead.
question or a comment, and I'm not even quite sure how to phrase this, but I'm thinking of all the problems the Kenai Library had with their selection of materials. And I wondered if there was anything in this document that would help us prevent those same kinds of issues coming with either, parents or hopefully not our council. That wouldn't happen. Of course not, Dave, right? But it was a huge, horrible situation in Kenai recently. So I don't even know if it's a question. I guess I'm just concerned that we don't want that to happen. And if there was anything in this document that would help prevent that from happening.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Yes, I believe the whole section under intellectual freedom addresses that, as well as all of those documents at the end, the freedom to read and the Library Bill of Rights, and that new document that we added, as well as the freedom to view. Those all address those concepts. And I believe they also link it right to the First Amendment.
Have you had any similar kinds of concerns expressed here?
Not to that level. Over the years, we've had concerns, and so far, what our procedure is that I talk to them. Usually, I'm in my office and I just come out and we have a conversation, and after talking about it, we talk about the differences between a public and a school library. We talk about various things, and we've always been able to work it out. it's never gotten to the point where there's been any hurt feelings, I guess I would say. So yeah, we have a very supportive community, and they generally understand that, you know, there's something for everyone in the library.
I do have a follow-up question on that. Is the procedure or process that you use in a written document as far as what is followed? It seems to me I've seen something.
So actually, under maintenance, that is our procedure, is that I review and I follow up with them. We don't have anything more expansive. Since we aren't a school library, it is a little bit different of a process. And like I said, so far that has always worked for our community, and we've had some really good conversations come from that. Thank you.
Yeah, you do have a form that people can fill out, though, to question materials.
Yes, yeah, that's that patron comment on library materials.
Okay, Rachel, under selection, I have a question or clarification where it says all acquisitions purchased or donated. Do you, because I'm under the impression that you really don't, accept donated books? But there's so many, for example, like those of us that are in book clubs who have our 1 month with our book and it's still in great condition and it's a pretty current book, and we tend to want to pass them on. And I know those that I've taken to the library have always been put over there for sale thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these are like really current. And I know there's other places in the community that actually sell these for higher prices, type 2. So what determines whether you are going to accept a donated book or not?
So technically, anytime we accept a donation, it's on behalf of the Friends, but of course we work hand in hand with them. And so the agreement is if we see something and we say, hey, that was published last month, we don't even have a copy yet, or we could use a second copy, we're going to grab that. We will also take items and we'll just double check, especially if it's a popular author, we'll double check to see if our copy is in good condition. So those are the situations where it's something that we need for the collection. A lot of times what happens is we're getting these really great copies, and you're right, they are in very good condition and we appreciate them, but we already have 1 or 2 on the shelf and it's meeting the demands of the community. And so that's why a lot of times they get passed on to the Friends. And I like to tell people, you know, all the money that the Friends make will come back to the library and oftentimes will end up in the collection as well. So even if that exact book doesn't end up in the collection, in some way it will help us.
Help us too. So
And
do
we
you
appreciate the donations.
So do you go through it before you pass it on to the Friends, or when they have it all out ready for the sale, then you can walk through and
A little bit
make
of
the
both.
decision?
A little bit of both. So when they drop them off right at the front desk, because we say 1 or 2 boxes or bags at a time, then we will look at them right away and then pass them on. And then the head of the book sale room is Vicki Fries. She's also a retired librarian, so she keeps an eye out for us. And like, for instance, this past year I gave her a list of the battle books, and she was looking out for the battle books because we could use extra copies of those during the year that they're popular. So they work very closely with us. And at any point we can go downstairs, and I have done that before, but typically she catches on before I need to. We're very lucky to have her.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to call for the vote.
Sweeney. Myers.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Miller. And Firstenow.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, recommend approval of libraries, an American Value document. Is there a motion to recommend approval of the libraries and American Value document? Could I have a second? Okay, report from the librarian.
So this is that same document that I also added to our selection policy. So what I would like to do is put this in the very first chapter of our policy, which is our administrative section, and this will follow those other documents that you just saw. So the Library Bill of Rights and right to read and view.
Are there any public comments? Hearing none, the subject is now open to discussion by the library board. Are there any board member comments?
I didn't study this packet very much ahead of time, so, and I should have probably, but we see all in red, libraries in American value, then on the next page we see libraries in American value. So what are we, did you just redo some of this for your purposes? Is that what the red one is all about?
It has to do with track changes. So because I was amending a current policy, then when I copy pasted it all in and formatted it, it added it as red. Whereas this new one, because it's a brand new policy that's never been amended, it's just as you see. Also, I kind of like the fact that it's probably easier to read. They're the exact same. One is just showing that it's been added to an existing policy, and one is showing that this is existing in the policy manual on its own. So it's a good question because it is confusing.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to call for the vote.
Sweeney? Myers?
Yes.
Brayman?
Yes.
Miller? Firstenow.
Yes. Okay, now we're on reports. I'd like to hear the librarian's report.
All right. So it was an interesting 3 months because we did see increases in some things and just our usual seasonal decreases in others. So meeting room use is steadily increasing. We're getting, I wouldn't say back to normal levels, but for this time of year, we're getting there. And in October, we were a polling site, and about 600 people came to the library to vote in person, and library staff helped out there as well as at the Soldotna Sports Complex. And we continued outdoor story times through the end of October, and we had a really fun time at our October 28th Halloween story time. We had 30 patrons attend, and everyone had a good time, and the costumes were lovely. And we are really excited to announce that we received 2 ARPA grants. That's the American Rescue Project Act grant. One was for $6,000, which is for more outdoor programming equipment and materials. And then the other part of that was $18,770, which will allow us to purchase hotspots and Chromebooks, which we will circulate to members of the community. And we also are getting 2 new early literacy stations. And we're actually getting all of those things set up sort of all at once as we speak. And we did close Thursday through Saturday for the Thanksgiving holiday. We traditionally would not close on a Saturday, but we've had a little bit of a difficult 2 years, and we thought, let's try this out. It seemed to be well received by staff, and I didn't have anybody else ask about whether or not we were open. So I wonder if people always thought we were closed. So we're still deciding if we're going to do that again, but I know staff really appreciated a break in the middle of the holidays. And in December, the city's mask mandate was amended, so they're now recommended rather than required. We appropriated our ARPA grants that I talked about before. We also continued these take and make programs, which have been very popular. It's mostly you put items in a bag, and then you either have instructions in the bag or you make a video, and patrons really enjoy them. We have them for different ages, so the ones for teens and adults are more difficult. And sometimes they're crafts, sometimes it's things like planting seeds. We had a pollinator-friendly seed packet this summer, for instance, and things like that. And the Soldotna Elks Lodge and Soldotna High School Student Council set up a tree at the library with wrapped presents underneath for the holidays, and children could choose a free present and take it home. That was really popular, and we're glad that that worked out for everyone. Saw a lot of happy faces. And also, we had a donation of a small card catalog, and it's from a member of the local gardening club, and we are partnering with them to start a seed library at the at our facilities, and library at the library, and they're going to be leading some programs in February and March to help us get started with that. That's a project that we've actually been talking about for years, and it was the right time when we had a community partner to make that happen. We also have a paper crane sculpture on display. It's to raise awareness of the Kenai Peninsula Peace Crane Garden Trails. It actually kind of just looks like it was designed for this space because it's fairly tall. We have it hanging in our adult area in front of the fireplace. So if anyone wants to come see it, it looks nice. And for technology, we had a few things. So we started using Print Mobile, which is really cool. It allows people to print from their phones, which I am not very good at until Print. I wasn't very good at until Print came along. We had patrons coming in all the time, particularly in the summer, but really any time of the year, and they didn't know their password to log into their email on the computers, but they had it right on their phone. So this way they can just send it right from their phone to the printer, and it's very secure, and so that's been a good addition. Our holds lockers also were so popular, we started running out of room, and we had to start calling patrons to combine orders, so to speak, with family members. It's calmed down a little bit now. I think it was because we were publicizing it a lot, but everybody seems to still really appreciate them. And then we learned that older iPads and also Kindles are no longer going to work with the Overdrive app, so we've had to tell some disappointed patrons, and that has more to do with the vendor, as they've discontinued support for those older devices. And by older, I mean usually ones that are getting on 10 years old, so which was the beginning of iPads almost. So it's unfortunate, but we're working through that as well. And then we did have some access issues with the statewide library electronic doorway, or SLED, as it's easier to call it, that houses our databases. So it was solved. Patrons could still get to it, but they had to go to a slightly different link than some of them had saved, but we were able to help them get there. And it's probably not news. We had a lot of unexpected staff absences. Yes, unexpected staff absences October through December. It was a challenge to continue providing consistent services. And we did also have a couple on-call staff members resign. So Amy Merle-Honold resigned on November 24th, and we're waiting to fill that position. And then Joanna Watts, who is an on-call clerk, also resigned on December 16th. And that was our third on-call clerk position, so it wasn't included in this year's budget, so we're not going to be filling this at this time. And then for collection management, some of these things seem little, but they actually make a really big difference in how people find items. Our adult DVD section was getting pretty crowded, so we moved it down to the 4th shelf and added stools so it's easier for people to reach, and it's much easier to shelve things and find things now. And we also now have magazines on Overdrive, which is exciting because in the middle of the pandemic, I was working with another company to get this access, which was very expensive. And now we just have it as part of our contract with the Alaska Library Network. So we're excited for that, and we're going to be promoting that more as the new year rolls out. And we had some really fun displays. In October, there was horror and gothic fiction and Indigenous people. In November, we had staff picks for 2021, which has become a staff tradition the end of the year, and Gobble Up a Gourmet Book. And then in December, we had seasons readings and brush up on, oh, that's a typo, but your skills. So painting and things like that. And we did continue to have problems with patrons who did not want to wear masks. It was pretty disruptive and stressful to staff. And we did discuss it with city administration, and we started focusing more on voluntary compliance instead of 100% compliance with the mask requirement. And then it became recommended, and so it sort of just transitioned. And then we also had holds start going missing from the hold shelf. But what we think is happening is that patrons are forgetting to check them out before leaving because they eventually come back. So we don't think that anything strange is underway, but we are actually planning on moving the hold shelf back to where it used to be. They used to walk right by us, so we could say, oh, can we help you with that? And we moved it closer to the entrance for obvious reasons during the pandemic, ease of access, and people could just pop in and out. But I think that we made a different problem for ourselves, so we should be able to find a solution to it. And summer reading is well on its way. We have been planning since October for Oceans of Possibility. It's an ocean theme, and it's a great theme when you live on a peninsula. All of our staff are super excited about it and lots of creative ideas. We are hoping to return to a fully in-person program. We'll, of course, be keeping everyone as safe as we possibly can, but that is our hope. And we are not planning on offering any online tracking. We had that program called Beanstack, and it was not everybody's favorite. I think the program itself was fine, but I think everybody prefers the paper version. So with maybe the exception of adult readers, adults seem to use it more than the parents of students. So we may be able to find an alternative that would be lower cost, but for now we're just planning on having the paper logs. And then for travel and training, we kept offering our self-directed achievement programs, weekly trainings, and as well as mentoring sessions. That's been going well. We also added a new training resource from Dr. Steve Albrecht. So he has library-specific trainings, and they're a very, very wide range of topics. He started out in library security, and now he's branched out to many different things. And we have access to that for a full year. And then in October, I was able to attend DURLEAD, which is a library leadership training in Girdwood. And this year it was about the future of libraries, and we had a good training on that. It was probably good timing. And then also, these are the topics that staff let me know. They were completing trainings on communication, leadership, resilience, winter safety, Excel, bloodborne pathogens, and harassment prevention. And then we did have all staff training in October. We completed reference and readers advisory training, and we started what I'm calling a group learning project. It's about the SLED databases, for everybody picks one database, and then at the end of this month when we meet, we're all just going to give a little summary of what we learned and look at it as a group. That way we're able to kind of remember what's there. If there's any new resources, we can review them as well. And then the clerks also had a special meeting in December to talk about adult programming and technical processing. So the last few pages, I will briefly discuss our statistics. So the green is 2019. So that's kind of like our last normal pre-pandemic year. So as would be expected, there were fewer people in 2021, but we are starting to see more people than in 2020. So that's good. And then circulation. In October, it was lower for whatever reason, but it started getting higher in November and December. And then programs. So the reason these are so low is that we had done some surveys, and what we were hearing from folks, especially the parents, was that their kids and the parents were burnt out on online programming. So they were okay with the little videos for the take and makes, but in terms of actually attending a live story time, which we had been offering, that was not something they were interested in. So we used to have 3 story times a week, so that adds up pretty quickly throughout the year. So that's why we do have fewer programs and, of course, fewer attendees. Most of those attendees were actually for in-person programs, and then we did have a few programs that were online in the beginning of 2021. So, well, I guess that's not showing that. So if you were to go back in your previous packets, you would see that. And then I'll let you kind of look at our infographics on your own, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have them, but that ends my summary.
Rachel, could you kind of fill me in on which I believe is happening, with the donation of books to like preschoolers? Is that still going on?
Oh, I wonder, probably 1,000 books before kindergarten. I think that's maybe
Right.
what you're talking about.
Right.
Yes, that is still going on. Of course, it has not been as popular as before. What we used to do is actually go to daycares, go to any events that were for children under 5, and we would hand out bags, greet people, actually try to invite them to the library if they hadn't been to the library yet. So we haven't been doing outreach just yet. I'm hoping in 2022 that we're able to do that more. And so the way that works is they read 1,000 books, and we've got them broken down. And then at the end of that, they do get a book, and they get a little star.
So it's books like they check out at the library and read?
It is. It can be any book. We actually
Okay.
tell parents, you could read the same book 1,000 times, which might happen.
Okay, right, which those
Yes.
little ones love.
Yes, and we
All
are
right.
looking to possibly revamp it. Not that it needs to change too much, but more just market it again because we'll be able to get out there in the community again, we hope.
Okay, that clarifies for me, because at one point I was interpreting it that you physically gave books, which seemed redundant with what the, Imagination Library
Yes,
does through
yes.
the hospital.
Yes.
So I was thinking maybe we should be looking at the 5 and above, because wow, they get so interested in books at that age, and just so many just can't get their hands on enough of them.
Yes, and we do still have that as our summer reading prize, is that all ages, even
Right.
maybe not
right.
adults actually, I guess all ages of children and teens can select a book at the
Exactly.
end. So you're right, they get very excited. So, and we do have a slip in the bag, so they get a red bag with their first star chart for reading for the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, and we do include a slip with the Imagination Library link so that they can get signed up for that right away.
Perfect. But that's gotten so streamlined now with the hospital doing it. The moment that baby's born, it's signed up and they're good to go. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
been huge.
And we've talked about having a library card application included in that. And I think, yeah, we were discussing it for a while. I also don't want to overwhelm people, but for a while they were advertising our Bouncing Babies program, which is an excellent thing for the babies, but also for new parents to have a social group right away.
Exactly. Thank you.
Any
I
additional
also have
que-
a
oh, I'm sorry, go
question. In the November report, you mentioned the hot spots and the Chromebooks. My question is, when you lend them, will they be available to take home, Rachel?
They
Or
will.
in library use only?
They will be available to take home, yes. So especially the hotspots and the Chromebooks will be, but the hotspots in particular, we looked at some of the statistics and some of the data. There are a lot of people that live in Soldotna that do not have broadband internet, that cannot afford broadband internet. It's very expensive. So we're trying to help alleviate that. And we have people almost every day come in that they need to use our internet for jobs, for school, for, numerous very important things, medical. So this will give them that option of having that at home. And we were able to work out a deal where we get unlimited data for the same price. So we're excited.
That is a very nice service to the community and to the school.
And is that on a checkout basis? So how long do they get to check it out?
It will be. We're going to start out with 3 weeks, like our normal things, because we do have 10 hotspots and 10 Chromebooks that we'll be able to lend out. And they don't have to check them out together. They can if they prefer to, but they can just check out one or the other if they want.
3 weeks.
And if we have to, we'll amend that. But we're going to start out with 3 and see what the demand is like, because I think that gives people plenty of time if they're working on a class or they have a job interview or whatever it is they're working on.
Any additional questions for Rachel? Okay. I was hoping to have a board chair report for you. I signed up for a webinar with United for Libraries, which is a division of the American Library Association. They were doing a webinar specifically to let library boards, boards of trustees, library volunteers, friends of the library groups, make them aware of the resources that are available for United Through Libraries. But unfortunately, that was going to be Thursday, and the presenter came down with COVID. So they will reschedule, and I'm certain it'll be before our next meeting. I'm somewhat excited about that, but as a ALA member, I thought it would be good for me to go through the webinar and find out how much of the resources are actually of interest to our type of advisory group. And then I will report on that, and we'll find out what information sources we can have free access to through the American Library Association. Okay, the Soldotna Library Friends do not have a representative here, or the city manager. Public comments. Is there anyone from the public logged in? Seeing none. I would like to go to council comments and start with Mayor Paul Whitney.
Well, I appreciate all the work you do for our library and for our community. I'm an avid reader, probably, between my e-books and my bookshelf, I probably have well over 3,000 books. Probably about 95% of those I've read, and I never leave home without a book of some kind, because you never know when you're going to have some spare time. So I really appreciate what you all do. I think we've got probably not only the best looking library, but probably one of the most used libraries in the state for a community our size. I can remember when I was a youngster, I spent a lot of time, especially in the summertime, in the library. And in my community, we didn't actually, if I remember right, have a public library. What we did is we shared the school library. And it was it was in the high school. And I remember spending a lot of summers in there reading a lot of books. I even remember that, if I totally remember this correctly, it was the Dewey Decimal System. And became very familiar with that. I would guess in this day and age, if you had told anybody or asked anybody about it, they'd be looking at you going, what are you talking about? But there again, thanks a lot, and I will let Mr. Carey have some comments now.
This week at City Council, one of the things, and I should say last week, we talked about the latest from outer space kind of map of our area, and that is behind the major part of the counter there. And I think if we took an update today, as compared to when that was made, as compared to when others were made, we'd see much more density, much more growth. And I start off by thinking about that. And of course, the library, serve a much larger area than what's represented there. And that whole area has become much more densely populated and has many more people. And so again, the service group for whom you provide is just growing and is very good. The library is a bedrock of the community, and as I think of that term bedrock, I think of, again, the stability of the rock that allows us to sleep well, to feel that we live in a community that is safe and is good. And as you began at the very beginning of the meeting, you asked for a motion to approve, and I have to say what I heard was e-motion, because that's certainly what I was thinking in terms of we are so very fortunate to live in a country where, again, we have this resource. Clean carpets, clean air, lights, again, the fixes connected to people. Anyone can come into this. It's totally wide open. And again, to me, this is one of the emotional aspects of being an American. And again, on Martin Luther King Day, particularly, heard two of you take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the laws of the state of Alaska, and again, the ordinances of the city of Soldotna, and again, that foundation, again, that bedrock that you are part of. In my opinion, in many ways, you are more important than, again, the big Capitol building in Washington, D.C. You are where people actually get to see government work. You get to listen to your opinion affected. As I listen to your new policies, and again, in taking input from all people, I know that you listen. I know that your ears are actively wanting to hear and to see from people. And again, that's what holds, I believe, the stability of our country together. I really liked your new policies. And again, just what they say in terms of, I just think it's very valid. As we know, before we had a country, we had libraries. And again, it was seen as a foundation of a civilized society. And again, so that your document on libraries and American value, I just think I greatly appreciate. I thank each of you for the service you provide. And I know that for a number of you, you've been providing it for quite a while. And it's nothing new, and it's part of your life. And again, I greatly appreciate that. I've known our librarian for quite a while, since the classroom. And again, I appreciate what she does and the staff that works there. And I just want to say I'm very pleased to be part of this city, and I really like being on this library board as an ex officio member. And I just enjoy getting to learn each time I come here and then getting to share with others. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Carey. We appreciate your presence at our meetings. Board member comments. Cheryl Miller? Thank you, Cheryl. Ed?
I just want to say that I love the picture on the front of our packet. That's the library for us. Thank you.
Rachel, going through your report, you have many great programs that have occurred, but I have become a Facebook friend of the library, and so I'm actually prompted when your staff do these online, and you did not even, well, how could you name all of the programs that her staff are doing, and they've become public performers. And I want to note, I was particularly taken with on New Year's Eve, there was a countdown to noon program for young children. And I thought that was so exciting because, of course, as a parent, we never let our kids stay up till midnight. You know, but it was so appropriate. It was just such a celebration. And yeah, so I just want to say how much I have enjoyed that. And I think everyone should sign up because just all of a sudden in the middle of the day, you're getting a presentation from the library staff. And sometimes they're cooking something, and sometimes they're making something, and sometimes they're just talking about a new scientific topic. So, thank you. Mary Lou?
Libraries are very dear to my heart, and I think as I read all of these over, it is an American value. It's one that we need to cherish and keep strong. Quoting one line, libraries are a legacy to each generation, offering the heritage of the past and the promise of the future. Rachel, that is what you and your staff are giving this community. Thank you.
Gloria?
I just read the book, Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. And, of course, the whole thing is that was the beginning of libraries, 1936, with, Eleanor Roosevelt, and choosing the poor book person and all of the stuff that would come into the building, the used stuff from everywhere around the country, and they would pick through, and how connected they became with the people on their routes, and how those people became connected with each other through the book person. They did eventually get men doing it too. But it was just so humbling to recall the beginnings of what actually is the library. And it is the community. I mean, think of what Paul was saying. I mean, we had an old brick Carnegie library in our hometown, and wow, it was awesome, just the way it smelled, the way everything was. It was nothing to walk the 3 miles to the library because it was that important. And even in this book, how back then, when schools were so limited, children literally learned how to read through the books that were delivered by these people. They treasure it. And so we're doing a great job here. Rachel, just thank you for pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, because that's what you're doing. Each meeting, you've just added a little bit more, and branched out even more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next regular meeting of the Soldotna Library Advisory Board will be held on April 18th, 2022 at 5:15 p.m. in the City Council chambers. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?